Hey everyone, Willie Miranda with Miranda Real Estate Group. I'm down here in Rotterdam, New York, actually down at Casa Visco to visit my good friend Adine Viscusi. Let's go inside and talk to Adine. I've been looking forward to this for months now, to have this interview with you. And I've known Adine for, just figuring out today, 38 years.
How's that possible? I'm 27.
I know, I can't believe it. Well, tell us how Casa Visco started. I know it's been around since, 1945, right?
Yeah. It was started by my grandparents. They were wholesale grocers. They basically resold staples like flour, sugar, salt to local independents, mom and pop stores. This really kind of predates before there were really supermarkets on every corner. And restaurants, pizzerias. And as a thank you for being their customers, my grandmother would give them a jar of tomato sauce that she put up from her garden. Customers asked if they could buy it, and she thought that that was crazy because doesn't everybody, put up tomatoes? So it was really that kind of humble start that they agreed to call it Casa Visco, which roughly translated means from the House of Viscusi. They didn't think that anybody could, say or pronounce Viscusi, so they kind of Americanized it to Visco.
So I know every time I've seen you, whether it's myself or with Cherry, you've always given us a jar or two of sauce.
People love to get that gift of sauce, and it means something when, Italians share food. It's so much more than just sharing a meal. It's gathering around the table, it's sharing sustenance. That's how we show we care for people, is we give them food or we cook for them. So that tradition, has definitely lasted through the years. No one leaves here without a jar of sauce.
Walk us through that process.
So it's fully automated. We basically get in glass, we get in tomatoes, we get in our raw materials. We have this big pallet mover that dumps the 55-gallon tubs of tomatoes into the kettles. We actually add fresh garlic and fresh onion that we saute in olive oil so that good fat gets infused with a really nice flavor. We put everything in a 300-gallon kettle. We use steam, and it raises it to 190 degrees. So it takes a lot longer to cook it that way rather than inject steam or pasteurize. Tomatoes are such a delicate item. If you're injecting steam or pasteurizing, you're obliterating that. So then a lot of manufacturers will add paste or puree or thickeners. We don't do that. We just take the time to cook it right. We use the best quality ingredients that we can possibly source. We don't use dried or dehydrated spices. We don't use any fillers. We don't add sugar. We don't add salt. We really try and replicate the way you would make sauce at home, naturally. And you take the time to kind of cook that sauce down. You allow the natural goodness of the tomatoes to shine through. The condensate comes off. It thickens up. It's really the way my grandmother made sauce on Sundays. It's the way I make sauce on Sundays. It's just on a larger scale. Organic has been really big, so we came out with a line of organics a few years ago. We're doing a home style and a marinara sauce and, of course, our pizza sauce. We also did a line of #awesome sauces, which are great. Yeah, so those were, using locally sourced items. We went to farmers in the Hudson Valley and said what grows in abundance that we could use year-round in our sauce. So our vegetable garden has 13 fresh vegetables, and it's literally like a vegetable stew.
I think the last time I was actually probably in the warehouse here was probably back in high school. I remember, I think when I came in here, there was a bunch of little old ladies, right?
Yeah, they were little old Italian ladies.
Absolutely.
And they would pour the sauce by hand. We used, gas burners, 25-gallon pots, and they would drape towels over and lean in, and they'd pour it by hand, they'd cap it by hand, they'd label it by hand. When supermarkets came in, Central Market was one of the first stores we ever got into, and we had the 4-foot section of Italian specialty items, and we used to roast peppers and grate cheese and do breadcrumbs and just have, a couple little lines of sauce on the bottom. And it just grew, and as we kind of got a little bit bigger, we kind of moved outside of the capital region, and we got picked up by a local distributor called A Greenhouse. And that distributor turned into another distributor, turned into another, which is now like KeHE, which is like one of the country's largest specialty food distributors. That's probably one of our biggest challenges now, is there's so much consolidation in our industry. These distributors just keep buying up other distributors and getting larger and larger, and what that means is really less breadth and depth in local markets. I mean, the local supermarkets do a great job of trying to support local, and you'll see it in their sets. I mean, they really do an outstanding job. But as those distributors get bigger, they're going with these assortments that are sort of national, so it's hard to really keep that regional focus as a distributor, and then therefore as a retailer, because when the distributor narrows their assortment, it leaves less choice for the supermarkets. So ultimately that means less choice for you, you know? So it's really, really important to buy local and support your local brands, because it means money right here in the economy. It means that you'll be able to have choices when you go into the supermarket. It means that you'll have, you know, an array of things to choose from rather than just, you know, what the big box brand is. I'm always trying to move the company forward and trying to do the level best that I can and put out something that, you know, I'm proud of, my family can be proud of, and that really speaks to the tradition and heritage of, you know, my Italian grandparents. I just think I've always, as an Italian woman, I've been passionate about feeding people. So like the fact that I can do that both personally and professionally is just like one of life's greatest blessings. And we take a great deal of pride. You know, there's something really sacred about being invited to somebody's table. And if somebody's, you know, opening up a jar of our sauce to serve their family, you know, we take a great deal of pride in that. That's like, it's being invited to dinner, you know, and as a mom, I've always been really, you know, careful about what I fed my kids and what I fed my family, and always tried to, you know, source the best ingredients and, you know, take the time to cook healthy meals. And if somebody's entrusting us at their dinner table, you know, that's a sacred thing. So we take that very seriously.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Willie.
Great information here on how Casa Visco was established and where it's going. And thank you very much. And also, mwah.